guys, this is Summer Lynn from Chicago, Illinois. Just wanted to give a huge shout out to the Relay for all the love and support they've given my team and I. And make sure you stay tuned for all the latest boxing news.
Welcome to the motherfucking Relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Per tweet from Michael Benson, Manny Pacquiao's MP Promotions rep Sean Gibbons has stated that Pacquiao still has the fire to fight next year, and he likes the prospect of a unification with Errol Spence for the WBA, WBC, and IBF welterweight world titles. What does this mean? Should we expect to see a Pacquiao versus Errol Spence Jr. fight in 2020?
No.
Truth, in spite of this news coming straight from the horse's mouth, Sean Gibbons, who's directly involved in the career of Manny Pacquiao, I can wholeheartedly say that I'm not holding my breath to see that fight. I'm just not. Manny did congratulate Errol Spence Jr. on his ring return, his victory this past weekend over Danny Garcia, and I can believe that some sentiments were expressed in passing as far as the prospect of that fight, that proposition, though I have no hopes of actually seeing it materialize. And if anything, I think that this is going to have an adverse effect on the welterweight division, as this removes any pressure on Errol Spence Jr. to finally man up and face Terence Crawford. So long as he can keep using the name of Manny Pacquiao as an excuse to bide his time and wait things out and play it safe, he ain't gonna have that Crawford fight.
He ain't.
Not that he wants it, because I don't think he does anyway. But this is yet another excuse in Errol Spence's excuse book.
They're both guilty of it, though.
Terence Crawford is not immune. He's also holding out hope that he can get a Pacquiao fight too, though I don't know why, seeing as when Manny was on your side of the street, the fight didn't materialize. So several years later, why would it materialize now? There were reports that Bob Arum was in contact with Team Pacquiao about possibly staging a fight with Manny, Terence, in Qatar. Obviously, those talks didn't materialize into anything. It's for this reason that, look, I understand that Manny's a legend, and it's amazing that he's still active, that he's still a reigning champion here today at the age of 40 years old in the welterweight division, having been a world champion in 8 separate weight classes. Incredible. But I really do want to see Manny bow out of the sport of boxing, because so long as he's around, this is what these young guys are going to do. This is what's going to continue to go on. Rather than fighting each other and feeling the pressure to do so, they'll just seek a veil by mentioning Manny. Because so long as Manny's around, he's going to be the A-side to anybody and everybody.
That's the cash fight.
None of these guys move the needle the way that Manny moves the needle. But at the same time, Manny's 40 fucking years old. How much are we expecting? How much else are we expecting this guy to be involved in? I have no interest in Spence versus Pacquiao. I'm sorry. I think Errol Spence and Terence Crawford need to cut the goddamn shit and fight each other. That's what I think. Stop relying on the legends of yesteryear to propel their careers. If they want to propel their careers, why don't they just fucking go through each other? I can't even get over Errol Spence Jr.'s post-fight reaction when questioned about Terence Crawford's presence at the Danny Garcia fight. Errol Spence Jr., in so many words, said that he didn't even know what Terence Crawford was doing there. These are professional fighters, you understand. You wouldn't expect this in the Larry Holmes era, the Muhammad Ali era, the Sonny Liston era. But in postmodern boxing, this is what passes for a unified world champion. A guy who, when questioned about his contemporaries, plays dumb, pretends he doesn't know what's going on or what that fighter was doing there.
I guess he's expecting Crawford to jump through more hoops.
In hindsight, given everything that's happened and everything that's been said the last 2 years in reference to this fight, I can't even blame Crawford for his lack of enthusiasm anymore. I can't do it because they've been putting up obstacles and roadblocks in front of this guy since he moved up to the welterweight division. So how's he supposed to keep the same energy, conjure it, for an Errol Spence Jr. fight when it's so obvious they're still putting distance between you and that fucking guy? The story was that he's got to climb up to the welterweight division and he's got to win a world title, and suddenly it's about sides of the street and which promotional outfit he's with.
2 years.
To how he's got to fight common opponents with Errol Spence. I mean, he's called Errol Spence Jr. out. He's made his feelings clear. He wants to unify the division. He went as far as coming face to face with you. Went as far as coming to your fight to see you in action. And the most that you can respond with is you don't know what he's doing here.
Well, I wouldn't go to his fight.
Ask this guy about Terence Crawford, he starts talking about riding horses and raising chickens.
And his fans let him.
Take certain ingredients to create a super fight. The main ingredients are two separate factions of fans that want the same thing. For different reasons, of course. They're both backing their guy, both backing their man, backing their fighter, whoever that fighter might be. It takes certain ingredients to make a super fight, but mainly it takes two separate factions of fans that want the same thing. And that's the problem here. That's what plagues the Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford fight. Terence Crawford's fans, they want to see the fight. They want Crawford to get that opportunity to really prove himself against what's supposed to be the best guy at this weight, a champion like himself. Whereas Errol's fans, they're happy to go the rest of their lives and not see that fight. They'd rather see Spence versus Thurman, or Crawford versus Porter, or anything other than that fight, where normally it takes two separate factions of fans to make a super fight. The problem here is Errol's fans don't want to see that fight, and Errol Spence Jr. himself doesn't want to give it to them.
It's not the ideal conditions to make a super fight.
It does take willingness from both sides, and whatever enthusiasm Terence Crawford had towards having that fight has all but dissipated over the course of 2 years and several excuses, several roadblocks that the people over there at the PBC put up deliberately.
So is it strap season or not?
Because if the story is that Errol is holding Terence to his word, I see no reason that the fans can't hold Errol to his. Wasn't it Errol Spence Jr. that said he wanted to unify this division and become the undisputed champion at 147 pounds? What happened to that? Can we officially say that strap season, as it were, is over? You know, in my previous video, we talked about what has become the American boxing scene and how it was announced that Floyd Mayweather Jr. was going to be participating in an exhibition match against Logan Paul. In association with that news, the Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Logan Paul exhibition is being staged by Fanmio on pay-per-view.
Oh?
Surprise, surprise that Showtime decided not to pick this up. Better still, website price says it's $24.99 for early buyers, but will increase to $39.99 after 1 million pay-per-views are sold. Then increase again to $59.99 on December 29th. Then one last increase to $69.99 on February 11th. I mean, the fucking balls, the audacity of these guys, thinking this kind of shit show is worth $70 for paying public's money during a pandemic. They got a lot of guts asking this of the fight fans, though in truth, the only reason they can conjure up the courage,
This is ballsy.
the only reason this event's coordinators can muster up the audacity to charge the boxing fan this amount of money for what is an exhibition match, the only reason they feel that they can do this and get away with it is because of the state of boxing in this country. They're not under any threat of being overshadowed by anything else that's going on because nothing else is going on. The fights that needed to be happening were happening. The fights that the fight fans are actually asking for. If that demand were actually being supplied, this event's coordinators likely wouldn't bother to stage it because they'd know the paying public isn't going to go for this kind of crap. But the bar has been lowered.
Bar of standard.
What is allowed in the sport, what is viewed as permissible, well, it's starting to feel like the sport itself is losing its dignity, losing its nobility. Now, these kind of novelty acts wouldn't even be a problem if the rest of the sport were actually thriving. But in an environment where a circus act, a novelty card, a shit show, in an environment where that kind of card can get more buys and more attention than an actual championship boxing match, yeah, it's safe to say that something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong.
So what's wrong?
I'll tell you what's wrong with boxing. Boxing isn't delivering for the boxing fans, and because it isn't, that creates a void that is left to be filled.
That's it.
These kinds of novelty acts we're starting to see more of.
They're the byproduct.
The event coordinators of these novelty shows, they know that they're under no threat of being overshadowed by what else is going on in the sport of boxing, the actual sport of boxing, because there isn't anything going on in the actual sport of boxing.
Not much.
It doesn't captivate people the way that it used to. That's largely in part due to the sport itself being fragmented and diluted over time. That's largely in part due to the boxing fans' demands not being met by boxing itself.
Boxing needs Spence versus Crawford.
And what boxing gives you is Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Logan Paul. Errol Spence, in all likelihood, will be fighting someone else. Who fucking knows? But whoever it is, it likely won't be Terence Crawford. And if I'm being honest, I'm not convinced it's going to be Manny Pacquiao either. Because if you thought about the circumstances, it's been well over a year since Manny Pacquiao had a fight. Well over a year since the Keith Thurman fight.
It has.
You think that Manny's gonna sit out for, what are we talking about? What? The Diamond fight was in July of last year, so what are we actually talking about? A 41-year-old Manny Pacquiao who's been out of action for well over a year, kicking off 2021 by entering into the ring with Errol Spence Jr.? Does it seem likely to you guys out there that Manny Pacquiao, after roughly, 15, 16 months of inactivity, he's gonna go straight into an Errol Spence Jr. fight? That seems likely to you?
Does it?
You think he signed to Paradigm Management, the same management company as Conor McGregor, because he's got an Errol Spence Jr. fight in mind? Do you think he confirmed
Because he did.
his interest in that Conor McGregor fight because it's Errol Spence Jr. he's got on his mind? I understand that Manny Pacquiao might have expressed some enthusiasm in passing. I don't doubt that he did, in reference to an Errol Spence Jr. fight. But all things considered, given the circumstances, I'm not convinced that fight happens.
He'll still use it as a crutch, though.
And this is what's wrong with boxing. This is what's wrong with boxing. In boxing, in today's era of boxing, you got a fucking music guy and Al Heyman, who knows fuck all about grooming fighters and sharpening talent. You got a music guy running a goddamn boxing outfit like it's a record label. And this fucking music guy has network deals with 2 separate platforms. You know, the music industry largely relies on niches and gimmicks to sell artists. Smoke and mirrors. Presentation more than substance.
Production, primarily.
That's how Al Heyman runs his boxing outfit. Like it's a record label. He's relying on niches and gimmicks and presentation as opposed to what actually draws people to the sport of boxing. The fact that it's a sport. The sport's competitiveness.
There's nothing competitive about hiding your fighters.
Nothing competitive about isolating yourself from most every other outfit that's out there for fear of what a loss on the part of your fighters.
Our loss might reflect on your brand.
Al Heyman knows fuck all about grooming fighters and how to maintain their sharpness, their competitive drive, their desire to be the best at what they do, because he's so busy trying to turn everybody
Stars.
into an overnight celebrity, into a Floyd Mayweather Jr., when common sense will tell you they can't all be Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s.
He hasn't duplicated that success yet.
That's because he knows fuck all about grooming fighters. What he does know about is frittering away investors' money in the millions. He knows a lot about that. He knows a lot about oversaturating the market with overpriced pay-per-views that no one was asking for, and celebrating those pay-per-views' mediocre success.
Leaking inflated numbers to the media.
But grooming fighters? Maintaining their sharpness? Their competitive drive? He don't know nothing about that. That's why he's got a stable of spoiled brats. Stable of debutantes and prima donnas. A stable of divas. This is what's wrong with boxing in America. This is how we got here. A guy like Al Heyman, a fucking music guy, having network deals with 2 separate networks. There's a lot to do with how we got to this point. And just in reference to one of the aforementioned parties that's loosely connected with this story, Jake Donovan took to Twitter and posted this tweet, which reads, Eddie Reynoso once again confirms that Saul Canelo Alvarez will campaign at 168 pounds from here on out, as he views it as Canelo's optimal weight. And that kind of makes Errol Spence Jr. versus Canelo Alvarez fight in Texas, where most people presume such a match would go down. That makes that kind of fight, that kind of situation, highly unlikely. Errol Spence Jr. hasn't moved up to junior middleweight, much less super middleweight yet.
He hasn't.
But that's where Canelo Alvarez is going to be for the foreseeable future. For weeks and months, I told you guys that I think that Canelo's run at 160 pounds, it's all but over. He might still hold the WBA title there, but that's likely going to change very soon, because I can't see Canelo returning to that weight for any of those guys. And that's saying something. That's really saying a lot, because at that weight, you have Gennady Golovkin. For Canelo Alvarez, a trilogy with Gennady presents a greater financial value, given what the zone would be willing to put up to see that fight get made.
Exactly.
That fight represents a greater financial value than what he'd get fighting Errol Spence Jr. But if Canelo Alvarez is unwilling to go back down to 160 pounds, because this is his optimal weight, this is where he wants to be, this is the division he wants to unify, if he's turning his nose up at a Gennady Golovkin fight at 160 pounds, what makes Errol Spence Jr. any kind of an incentive to go down there? In all likelihood, Canelo Alvarez would do what he normally does, flex some A-side muscle and force the other guy to accommodate him, because Errol Spence Jr. is in no way, shape, or form the same caliber of marquee fighter that Canelo Alvarez is. He's just not.
He's no Floyd Mayweather Jr.
In terms of marquee value, these two guys, they're not in the same stratosphere. They're not even in the same neighborhood. No way. No likelihood. This is a situation to where it would be Errol Spence Jr. that has to make the jump.
It would.
You'll excuse me for saying so, but I don't think that Al Heyman, Tim Smith, Bill Wenger, the people over there at the PBC, I don't think they would do with Errol Spence Jr. what Matchroom did with Kell Brock. Allow him to go somewhere he clearly doesn't belong for an opportunity. Talking about that Gennady Golovkin fight after things fizzled out with Chris Eubank Jr. Kell Brook stood in his place, but we all knew ahead of that fight. Kell Brook ain't got no business going up to middleweight, let alone for somebody like Gennady Golovkin. I think the same applies here to Errol Spence Jr. Look, Errol couldn't knock out a chubby lightweight in Mikey Garcia. And forget knocking him out, he couldn't even knock him down. In Danny Garcia, he thoroughly outboxed and thoroughly outlanded that guy. And he put on a great showing, a good display of boxing acumen. But this is yet another guy that Errol Spence Jr. couldn't take out.
Well, every fight doesn't have to end in a knockout.
I'm not saying that it does so much as because it doesn't. If you can't knock out guys at your own fucking weight, what chance do you stand against Canelo Alvarez anywhere above junior middleweight? Anywhere above middleweight? What chance do you stand with Canelo Alvarez when you can't knock out a chubby lightweight or a economic fighter? And Danny Garcia, these guys.
What, you gonna beat Canelo on the cards?
Because we know you can't knock him out. What, you're going to be the one that thoroughly outpoints Canelo Alvarez in the eyes of the judges? 114 CJ Ross, Canelo Alvarez. Where Floyd Mayweather Jr. got a draw scorecard with Canelo Alvarez, what, you're going to do better on the judges' scorecards? You're going to outpoint this guy? You're brave.
That's why I never viewed that fight as realistic.
Think about it. Wilder's been dethroned. He's not even a champion anymore. The PBC is definitely invested in the success of Errol Spence Jr., and so is their network affiliate in Fox. And they're not going to let him walk into a situation like that. I just don't buy it.
They wouldn't let Caleb Plant walk into a situation like that.
You think they'd let Errol walk into that situation? Errol, who they're more invested in than Caleb? No, I don't think so.
As far as I'm concerned, that settles that.